Good afternoon, YouTube. So today I'm out by the creek, and of course you can probably hear it in the background, and I think I showed a little bit of video starting this video. Showed a little bit about the creek, or a little bit of the creek, but today I wanted to talk a little bit about freedom and how it's slipping away from us. We're kind of getting over time, since the early 1900s or early 1800s, our freedoms have been slowly more and more stripped away from us, and as Americans, and nobody really realizes it, nobody really notices it. But if you go and look at the Constitution, all of these rights and the Bill of Rights, all of these rights that were written into that, and made law of America, to give us our human rights to live by, has just been slowly stripped away. It just seems like they just chip more and more at it throughout the times. So it's just kind of crazy how we don't realize how much freedom we don't have anymore compared to what we used to have. Now it's becoming more apparent, I think, with freedom of speech being stripped away. You're not allowed to say certain things, otherwise you're ostracized for it. You're not allowed to hold an opinion anymore, it seems like, on social media, because now more and more you get banned or blocked or whatever else, including YouTube. Facebook is probably the worst right now, I think, in my opinion. I haven't really seen much more worse than Facebook at the moment, but right now it just seems like we're getting less and less into human rights. Even the right of our own health choices now are being stripped away. It's funny how even the President of the United States himself said earlier this year that it was unlawful for him to mandate anything, that they couldn't mandate, and then he turns around and mandates it. So it's just crazy how it seems like it's our freedoms are being stripped away much more faster nowadays than they were before, and it's becoming more and more noticeable to most of the population, I believe, and it's sad. It seems like parents don't have the rights to their children anymore, what they learn. And speaking of education, that's what they want. They want to dumb us down. And it was the same thing for the Native Americans when they were sent to all these schools, all of these concentration camp schools back in the day. The boarding schools that they were sent to. My great grandmother used to talk about the boarding school that she was sent to. They weren't allowed to speak in their native tongue. They weren't allowed to dress in their native dress. They weren't allowed to sing their native songs. They had to choose, a white name. Not saying that there's anything about being white. I'm just bad about being white. I'm just saying they had to choose, I guess, a basic European name. They couldn't keep their native names, and they would educate them on what they wanted them to learn. And they didn't want them to learn certain things, of course, because education is a key. Education makes you realize that things are not right if you're properly educated, or when to tell when things aren't right if you're properly educated. And I think that that's what they're trying, in my opinion, that seems to be what they're trying to do now, is de-educate or dumb down society so they don't realize what's really going on and the troubles that they're bringing upon the American people more and more. And we see it today. We see plenty of it today. The border crisis in Texas. You can't travel as a U.S. citizen to another country and then back without having a test done, or having, had a certain medication put into your bicep. but people can cross our southern border without any sort of regulations on that at all. It just, it doesn't make any sense to me. And people, I think some people don't pay attention to that, and they're ignorant of that, and they don't realize what's going on in our country. Crime is getting more and more prevalent. It seems like in California that they're just letting people go for committing crimes. Shoplifting, theft, destruction of private property. These are, they're saying they're they're not even going to set bail for these. They're just going to let them go because they're using the excuse of a certain disease that's going around right now, and they're using that as an excuse to let these people off. Just minor things. I mean, these are major things, but there's minor things too. And it's just really sad. And it's been proven from empire to empire that when you allow your human right, your individual rights, to be stripped, that's when the empire grows and could really care less. And I think we're seeing that. I think that the more and more that we give away our human rights, the more and more power that our governments have. And that's all over the world. That's not just America. Once you start giving up your rights, then you're giving more power to the government. You're giving more power to the empire that controls you, that controls what you eat, what you do every day. Because let's be honest, the more and more our food supplies dwindle down from the shipping issues that we're having, the more and more control that the powers that be are going to have over what we eat. The same with gasoline, and this is my theory on gasoline and oil, is that so our president decided that we didn't need to be self-sufficient on oil, so he stopped our pipelines. We no longer use oil from the United States. We use it from other countries, and we are basically having to pay them to give us their oil or gasoline. I think this was all in a move towards climate change, because they want to instill electric cars in the United States. They want to get rid of gasoline usage in the United States and put in electric cars and electric. We have to depend on electric things instead of gasoline. So what do? They stop the supply of gasoline, and to sort of a trickle effect, so that we are limited on how much gasoline we get. Prices get higher. The more people are like, hey, these electric cars aren't looking so bad now, price-wise. And I think that in a few years we're going to be confined to using electric cars, whether we want to or not, because we won't be able to get gasoline anymore, or they're just going to restrict it so much that people just can't afford it, or they're going to find a way to get you to follow their narrative no matter what. So these are all freedoms that we have that we basically don't have anymore. We don't have the right to choose whether we want gasoline or electric. They're going to force us to use one or the other. So I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm just trying to figure out how to put that in words. And it's sad. It's sad that we're coming to this. It's sad that we can't go to our own schools and tell the people that we pay to teach our kids what we want our kids to learn and what we don't want them to learn. Otherwise, now you apparently get arrested for that, and the FBI is alerted, and all of this crazy stuff just for raising a concern about what your kids are learning. So it's like you're just signing over your rights as soon as you have that kid to the state. It's like you no longer have any sort of freedom over what they learn, except for what you teach them at home. So that's why I try to keep my kids informed about what really goes on in history and what really goes on in the world today. And I think that it's important that we learn our history. I think that within education, I think that we need to teach our kids the real history of the United States. No matter how brutal, no matter how bad, you know, life is not all unicorns and rainbows. There's going to be things that offend you throughout life, and I think that history should offend you. History should be, you know, a bad reminder of what went on in the past, because, you know, one of my favorite quotes, you know, those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And that is so true. If we don't remember our past and the bad things that happened in our past, those things are never going to be corrected, and, you know, we're just going to fall right back into the pit that we were hundreds of years ago. You know, look at the Roman Empire. It's just, you know, I think that the United States is basically becoming a Roman Empire. All the things that went wrong with that are now going wrong with us. So I think that we can learn a lot from history, and you know, we just need to take that and recognize what freedoms we are missing, what freedoms are being taken away slowly but surely over the decades. More and more freedoms are taken away, and now I think that it's coming to a head where our freedoms are being stripped even faster, because they're trying to reach that goal of power. And, you know, the more government you have, the less freedom you have. You know, the United States was founded on less government, and we're supposed to be the ones telling the government what to do, not the other way around. The government should not be telling us what to do. We should be telling the government what to do. That's why we vote. And that's one of the things that we can do as Americans to change the outcome of all of this bad stuff, is do your research on who you're voting for. Do your research on the people you're putting in power to dictate these things that you want them to dictate. That's the main thing, is you've got to do your research before you vote. Obviously, a lot of people voted on emotion, or more people vote on, it seems like more people vote on emotions these days rather than facts. And that's sad, because you can't vote on emotion. You have to vote on facts. You have to vote on what is in reality, not how you feel about something. Because honestly, facts don't care about your feelings, and that's just the way it is. It's the way nature works. You know, the Constitution was written based on Native American law, Indian law. You know, the Iroquois Confederacy is where we got our Constitution ideals from. And, you know, Indian law, Native American law, is natural law. And we have to abide by nature's laws, because nature's laws are not, they're not going anywhere. They're perfect for a reason, and they allow freedom. They allow, the main thing that we need is freedom. They allow human rights. You know, and I think that nature's law is perfect law. Otherwise, all of this wouldn't be here. It's just a big circle. So I think that I'm going to end this video because I'm rambling way too much, I can tell. But, you know, guys, just ponder this. Ponder your freedoms. Look into your freedoms. You know, compare and contrast what freedoms men and women had back, you know, a long time ago to now, and see how restricted we are. Just really look into it, and you'll see for yourself, you know, if you don't already see that. But I'm going to end with that, and I hope you guys have a really good day, and, you know, get out in nature again. And I know I always say that, but it's true. You can always think better, and your problems just seem to float away because you're in nature. You're in nature's law. And I think that's where we need to be. But you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Stay safe and be careful out there.